to Seneca Studios' open studio night for the month of November. If this is your first time with us, welcome. And if you haven't been here before, welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome back. So we're going to be broadcasting this live demonstration for about 3 hours. We usually do this from 6 to 9 Central. And tonight we are featuring a very special program. This is our Veterans Program that Tatara Siegel has been running for quite a while. And so she's going to be working with some of our veterans to make a really cool piece together. They're going to be collaborating today in the Hot Shop, which is our hot studio. We do have a chat feature in the comment section. As we go through this demonstration with you tonight, feel free to put some comments down in there, ask questions about the process, and we'll do our best to answer them as we go. So we're going to start out this demonstration just by watching a little bit of glass making. I'm going to explain some of the processes as Clifton is working through this with Jessica. And then we'll take a pause. We'll pause for a second. I'll pull you guys into the gallery with Tatara and Jessica, and we'll talk to them about the Veterans Program. So we tell you guys all the time that Seneca does a bunch of programming for the community. This is one of those programs. They've been working for several weeks with veterans who had never worked with glass before. And now they're going to be working together to make something really interesting. You guys will just have to see as we progress. So Clifton's putting parts in this color box here. We're going to see the veterans prep a few pieces like that. And this color box is sitting at about, just about like maybe around 1,000 degrees. And then as they make these parts, the team's going to start assembling this piece into something larger. So Clifton's over here gathering from our 2100 degree furnace. The glass is pretty hot at this temperature. You guys can see. This is a really nice spot to hang out in front of during the winter, as you can imagine. It is very warm, Matt. So when the glass comes out, it's pretty gooey. It's kind of like really hot taffy. On the screen probably looks pretty white hot, right? Clifton is marvering the glass. And that's basically just the process of rolling it on this table, which is called a marmer. Jessica's got a set of tweezers in her hand, and she's going to use the tweezers to make a little bit of texture. They're making little roots. So Clifton is helping Jessica pull little points. And each of them, I believe, is going to make some roots. They're practicing this at the moment. So you guys, if you're local to Fort Worth, if you're in the area, feel free to stop by. We are doing these demonstrations in person, and we've got the bleachers set out. It's supposed to get a little bit chilly tonight, so this is a nice night to come hang out with us in person. Sit by the fire. So if you are local and you've never been here before, we are located on Magnolia Avenue in Fort Worth. So feel free to stop by, or you can continue watching us live online as well. So the glass, every time you touch it, it gets cold. And we use this reheating chamber to reheat the glass. You can see that Clifton's hands are continuously turning. So Jessica's using the diamond shears. And they're going to make a little constriction. That little constriction is going to aid in breaking the glass off of the punty, which is the metal rod that the glass is currently attached to. Very awesome. So Clifton's putting that last piece in the box. And positioning it so that it can be picked up later. Nice. Nice job. Yeah. So yesterday was Veterans Day, and I just want to take a moment to thank all of the veterans who are watching and all of the veterans for their service. We do have a Veterans Day celebration happening tomorrow, which I believe all of our spots are full, but if that's something you want to participate in next year, we do always have it around Veterans Day. It's usually the Saturday after Veterans Day. Totally free program for veterans and their families. And that kind of program is really brought to you guys by other people like you. So that program is running through donations and grants. We certainly can't do that without you guys. So do consider, if you haven't, consider a donation to help us out, continue that kind of programming. You can always go to our website. We have the ability to donate on our website if you are interested. But you can also support us by sharing this video. You can support us by coming and taking a class. All of that helps us to continue programming like this. Ooh, it's nice and toasty. So when the glass comes out of the furnace, it is pretty white hot.
There's a pinup version of Wonder Woman.
As Clifton's rolling the glass on the marble, you can slowly start to see the interior of the glass as it cools. So that hot glass, when it comes right out of the furnace, is about 2100 degrees.
So she wasn't original.
And then it's generally cooling down very slow as we are working with it.
Gave her electroshock therapy, like he turned her like inmates and their guards. That same thing. She was a psychologist. And either he convinced her
So we're pulling little points. You can see the consistency of the glass is pretty sticky and ooey. It's way, way, way too hot to touch with your hands. So generally glass makers use tools like the little tweezers in order to shape the glass. So you guys, we do run classes in this studio. If you're interested in learning about our classes, we have our class listings online and all of our registrations are done online. So feel free to go online and check it out. If you have any interest whatsoever in working in this studio or any of our other 2 studios, which I'll tell you about later. So we're using the diamond shears here to make a little constriction. Those of you who have watched this before, do you remember what that constriction is called? The purpose of it is to break the glass off from the punty, but some of you probably know what it is called. If you know the answer to that, put that answer down in the chat. I'm kind of curious to see how many of you know some of our glass terminology. All right. Thanks, Heidi, for putting that link down in the chat for us. All right. So all of these parts are going to get picked up later. We've got to keep the glass hot while we are doing this prep work in order for it to not crack. The glass is super duper temperamental and heat sensitive. And it doesn't like being cooled down too fast. It doesn't like being heated up too fast. So we gotta take precaution and keep it warm when we're planning on working with it again. So glass is made up of 3 elements. That's actually how our studio gets its name, Silica. Silica, sodium, and calcium are the basic elements of glass. And then you can alter that formula by adding different things into it. But our basic soda lime glass consists of silica, sodium, and calcium. Now when you are working with color, I don't believe we're going to be working with color tonight, but when you work with color, you add different things into the glass to change the color. So something like gold might make a red or a pink. Chromium might make a... So depending on what you're wanting your glass to look like, you can alter the formula of glass. All right. So we can't really touch the glass. So we gotta use tweezers to pull it, push it. Using the diamond shears to really make a jack line. So the jack line is the constriction. That little constriction right there is to break the glass free from the punty. So we're gonna make a bunch of these today. And while these guys are working on some more, I'm gonna follow Tatara into the gallery, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the program with Tatara and Jessica. Hi, Jessica.
Discussion some of the concepts and things that we think about in our day-to-day life. And so we offered 2 programs that ran consecutively over the course of 12 weeks. The first program was called Courage Through Fire, and it is a 2-week in each discipline. And so what that means is the first part of the program, they spent the first 2 weeks in the flameworking studio creating these beads that you see that line the dog tag chains. And so each veteran was able to play with the glass in that studio to really understand how it moved and was manipulated around a mandrel. And they created these really interesting beads. After that, they came into the hot shop and created these really interesting and unique cups in the blown glass from a furnace at 2100 degrees, where they were able to remove the material and blow into it and shape it and create these really interesting, unique cups. And then the second, or the last 3rd weeks, was done in the kiln forming studio, where they worked with the glass in a cold state. And we kind of collaborated the disciplines to create something that was really unique, where we took elements from the blown hot shop blown area and we combined them with elements from the kiln forming. And basically, these types of program, what we like to do is try to create a basis for a narrative. And it allows people the opportunity, if they want to express something, to be able to do so in a tangible object form versus having to stand and just like talk about things. And so I wanted to thank Jessica and the guys who you'll see that are outside for coming. And if you had anything that you wanted to say, I want to say one thing before you do. Thank you. Thank you for your service. The more I work with veterans and we do these programmings, as a civilian, the more I learn about the sacrifice, and not so much the sacrifice for my personal freedoms, but the sacrifices that you give in your personal life. So thank you so much. Thank you for venturing down this with me. It's been eye-opening, and I really cherish it from an education and a learning standpoint. It's really jazzes me.
Honestly, it's truly been my honor, and I appreciate you opening my eyes to the concept of finding a way to create, because so often what I find is a lot of times my veterans don't have words for their experiences.
Yeah.
And so this work is reflective of sometimes things that they don't have the words for. And I think that so often the desire to ask for help is just not there, because everything in the military tells us the opposite, right?
Yeah.
That strength should come from within, that you don't need any help, that you should just deal with it, all those things. And so a lot of them don't know how to put into words the things that they think or feel. And so art in and of itself offers a medium, but art also has a femininity that not all men or women are comfortable with. And from a military perspective, it might feel a little bit less than desirable to just like paint or craft or things like that. And so this offers something that is at the core of who we are as humans, right? All life began in some ways with the ability to control fire. It's what cooks our food and feeds us and nourishes us in ways that we don't even imagine.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I know.
now you're nourishing the soul.
I know, and you know, it was such an interesting thing, because the kiln-forming studio, as amazing as it is as a discipline, and it allows for people to really come in and be able to create without having the years of experience. There's always been this kind of real weird femininity air to it. And so when we started, I thought, man, I got a bunch of guys, they're not gonna wanna make platters. You know, they're not gonna wanna, but what I noticed was so much of this group was about the making, but the discipline, right, in and of itself, the kiln forming studio allowed for the group to be able to verbally connect with each other, because there wasn't that hot element that was always distracting them, or they always had to stay focused with, and so they literally could talk to each other. Whereas in the other studios, it was very much, you know, focus. And this will bite you if you don't focus. And so, you know, it was a huge learning experience for me, because that kiln forming sometimes, you know, men are, it's a little too soft, you know, if you will.
Well,
so I love that.
They also had to face their humanity in that there is no perfection in art.
Right.
It's always very subjective, and it's always going to do its own thing. It's very organic, and so even them overcoming that internal struggle was a beautiful thing.
It was
to
a beautiful
see.
thing. It was amazing. Okay, so what do you want to tell what we're doing, or maybe talk about the metaphor of what we're doing?
So something that we did in our lessons was we talked about the lies we tell ourselves, and so we equated that to a tree. Sometimes those lies are not always healthy, and so we're trying to reframe them in a much more healthy way, so the things that sustain us are more positive and are really offering nourishment rather than taking away from this living and breathing representation of who we are as people. It's so easy to fall down that dark path, but it's so much harder to embrace the good stuff.
So we found one day, just as a quick story, we found through discussion and through one of our readings when we were doing our group discussion, that the tree metaphor is an amazing object that talks about connection, interconnectivity, strength, weakness. Pair all those concepts with a glass one, right? And you've got this amazing object that can say so many different things on so many different levels for so many different people. And so I'm super thrilled. I you know, once we started making trees and roots, I kind of fell down that rabbit hole, or that root hole, if you will, and I started really diving into thinking about the metaphor of the connection that we have as humans, of the connection that we have as co-workers, as colleagues, as people in the same field, but in different places. And so,
and even how seasonal that can be, right? Sometimes people are only in your life for a short time, and then they move on to different pastures or different avenues.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. Yeah. Just gives me chills. Just like going back and remembering.
Sometimes that's like right in line with the military community, because you think about it, we're only in one spot for about 3 years, we move on to another spot. And so it's always interesting to see how we kind of end up circling back to each other and finding each other in the most random ways, because we're such a small percentage of the population.
Right.
So,
Good stuff. Okay, you guys, so we are going to go back out to the hot shop, and we are going to create this, but larger. So stay tuned. Ask us any questions. I'm happy to answer any questions if you want to type any into the chat. Otherwise, you can go online and look at the descriptions of these courses if you have any interest, or anybody that you know that has any interest. And I'm always available for an email or anything like that if you have specific questions. And hopefully we'll get to work with Jessica again if we can get some more funding. So we'll see.
Yeah, you guys. All right, great. We'll follow you guys back into the hot shop. So you guys, this programming definitely is funded by grants as well as donations. So don't forget that you can support us by donating to our programming to keep these things alive.
Well, this room is now fabulous. We enjoyed it. Very snake-like.
All right, so Kevin's got a little bit of water on that jack line. We're putting it in the box. Those of you who have been watching with us for a little while saw us doing this earlier. And then all of these are going to come together as parts on a larger sculpture. So how many of these are we making, Clifton?
I think we're just gonna get to capacity in the oven,
All right.
so that if we lose some, we're still in a good spot.
All right, so we're filling that little box up as much as we can, it sounds like. All right.
I love the irregularity of it.
Yeah, ditto. So when our punties come out of the furnace, they can be pretty toasty. Those are steel rods that we gather on. And so we do have a pipe cooler to chill the punties out a little bit. So glassmakers are always turning their hands. You'll see Kevin kind of turning his hands all the time. And that's to make sure that that glass stays on that rod. The moment you stop turning, gravity kind of takes over.
You know what I was thinking.
And you can certainly meet the ground if you are not turning. So you guys can see the glass is super gooey at this temperature. It's like taffy. It's very much like taffy, but a lot hotter, of course. So you guys, if you have any questions about this process, feel free to put your questions in the chat. Like Tatara said, we can try to answer them as we go. And then I know that Heidi's also kind of monitoring the chat, so she may answer you if you have any questions about anything specific, like our programs, what we offer. Our website has got tons of information on it as well. So when we were in the gallery, Tatara mentioned flame working, she mentioned glass blowing, and she mentioned kiln forming. Some of you are already familiar with those terms, and some of you might not be. We are in the glass blowing studio right now. And in this studio, you work with the glass while it's molten, as you guys can see, and you're going to continue to see through this demonstration. But if you're interested in trying some of our other studios, we do offer flame working as well, which is working with the glass in rod form or tube form, and then putting it in front of a torch to heat the glass and shape it. It's a super fun process. You have a lot of controls sitting in front of a torch, and you can make a bunch of detail work. So things like beads are made in the flame working studio. And borosilicate sculptures are also made in the flame working studio. You can technically also blow glass in the flame working studio. So glassmakers will use tubes of glass in that studio to make vessel forms. And it really is a very fun process to learn. It's one of the few processes you can actually set up at home pretty easily as well. So for those of you who are hobbyists and have an interest in making glass at home, flame working might be a good solution for you. Kiln forming is the third discipline that we teach, and that is a totally cold process when your hands are on it. So it's super similar to stained glass, mosaics. You're cutting glass, assembling it, and then you're putting it into a kiln, which is a very hot oven, to melt the glass down. So we do offer classes in kiln forming as well. Some of you might know it as fusing. It's the same process. Kiln forming is usually more of an umbrella term that includes casting as well. And we do teach casting in our studio, which is why we use a kiln forming term. Our fourth discipline that we teach is cold working. And cold working is a process of cutting glass, shaping it while the glass is cold. So we do have a lot of people who come through who want to cut bottles open or reshape bottles, use recycled glass. And so using our cold studio is usually the best way to do that.
I just want to make sure that if it is something where it sticks, that we can still pull the material out.
And we do offer classes in cold working as well. That's not a studio I tend to talk about a lot, but it is a really, really cool studio. For those of you who don't like the heat very much. All right. So we're going to be adding bark texture by using actual bark.
Go ahead, bud. And lift. And again.
Oh, very nice.
Lift.
So there is moisture in the wood which stops it from sticking to the glass too much. I hope the camera will focus on that.
Do it again.
All right.
Looks pretty good.
That looks
really
great.
Yeah, dump that in the water, would you?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh dear. Tatara likes to make sure that everyone's awake every so often. All right.
I'm just gonna do nubs.
So Tatara, that texture is going to go on.
It's gonna go on the outside of the tree trunk.
Okay,
So
got
we're
it.
gonna lay bits and allow them to push the texture in,
Okay, got it.
and we'll lay them kind of, vertically or a little bit more organic, and
Yeah.
then we'll fill it up. The image is on the thing.
Got it. So you guys, those of you who've been watching for a little bit, you saw the piece that we made in the gallery. We're going to be making this. So the guys are working on the roots right now, all those little bits right there.
So we're gonna add strips of glass here,
Okay,
right? We're gonna bring bits, and then we're gonna take the bark and push it in.
got it.
So it should create that kind of, in theory, with the optical qualities, it should create kind of that
texture.
texture of bark. And what we'll do is make it all the way around. And then once this piece is completed, looking down, you're basically gonna have a circle, right, of a stump.
Yeah,
And what they're gonna do is, this is a hollow blown piece here, and these are solid. So this will be sitting up off of the ground, and what they're gonna do is they'll come back and they're gonna write words
as rings.
as part of their process, their story, as rings, which when lit will illuminate the text onto the pedestal underneath.
Got it.
So when you step up to the tree bark, or when you step up to the trunk and you look over down through it, there'll be words in a circle underneath.
So T, that's going to be done cold, right?
Yes.
In the cold shop
Yes,
with the
with
Dremel?
the Dremel. Yeah, so the plan tonight is to have the trunk pretty relatively smooth, and then to create an engraved ring from where it was once connected to a larger life form, a larger tree.
Right. Yeah.
This will be displayed at our annual fundraiser, and when we were in the gallery, you saw that there were those dog tags, and so when we display it, it'll be on a low pedestal, and the dog tags will hang above it. And so today, we're going for all clear. With this etching, we'll have kind of like a sandblasted or almost like a white looking color to it.
Okay.
Because when you cut the shiny glass, you're scratching it, and so it'll look like
Right.
a scratch. So this will be void of color, and then the narrative will come from their dog tag, which we saw earlier in the
And
gallery.
those have a ton of color in them.
Tons of color.
Yeah.
They're actually the duality of the lies they tell themselves is what we've kind of discussed. And basically, there's one dog tag that has full color and the other is absent of color. And they each are narrative based on that lie that they've told themselves. And so, yeah, so there's a little bit of both, basically the entirety of color, because you have the grayscale and then as well as a full color one. So I think it turned out pretty nice.
Absolutely.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be good.
Thanks for explaining that to us.
Bring that out a little bit. Perfect. Yeah, diamond cheers.
Yes.
Perfect. Oh, excellent. Perfect. That's nice. Very straight.
Yes.
In this case,
Gotcha. And then I'll kind of push in, and then when you pull up, we'll get that
get a
extra.
little bit more movement. I might even eat this section while you're pulling. Instead of the top break.
Yes.
There's less stress going on.
Okay. And so it'll merge better too.
Yeah. Movement and it makes it all together without
So once we create that constriction, that's where the glass is going to want to break off. But generally, glass breaks when it is cold in a specific area. Nice. So we're making a bunch of these parts, as many as we can fit in here. And then they're all going to get assembled into one larger sculpture, just like we were talking about earlier. Nice.
Okay. Good?
We're good?
Ready?
Are we? Do we want more?
2, 4, 6. How many are in there?
We could still make some over here while the bubble gets started over there.
Okay. Sounds good to me. I figure more is better theory.
Yeah, can you guys make some
All right. So I think Tatara is going to start on the body, the main part, the trunk of the tree. So she's gathering molten glass from our furnace. That glass is about 2100 degrees or so in temperature. And this time we're gathering glass on a blowpipe. So this trunk is going to be hollow. For those of you who were watching a little earlier when Tatara was explaining the piece, you heard her say that it was going to be a hollow sculpture. And in order to make a hollow sculpture or a hollow vessel, we've got to use a blowpipe. So by putting a little bit of air into the end, you guys see that little bubble? That's gonna slowly make everything nice and hollow, and we're gonna inflate that as we go a little bit further. So Tatara's marvering to kind of cool the sides up. And then most likely she's going to be adding a bunch more glass But in order to add more glass, we've got to let this bubble cool down quite a bit.
When I get in here, I get
Very awesome. So you guys can see that the color right now is, it's like an orangey color, right? It's got a glow to it. Well, the glass is clear. It has absolutely no color in it. So what you're seeing right now is just radiant heat from the glass. And that color, as the glass gets colder, that color is going to totally disappear because we are working in clear glass right now. I don't know if you guys can see that. That's much less orange than it was a few seconds ago. So now we're going to gather over that. We're going to let that cool down a little bit. And for those of you who joined us a little bit late, you can see that trunk and roots that is behind Jessica on that whiteboard. That's the shape we're kind of going for. So, Jatara is going to gather up some more glass. It's a nice night to be in front of the furnace, yeah? So nice. You guys, we're getting into prime glass blowing season here in Texas. Those of you who are interested in learning glass making, we're also headed into ornament season if you want to make some ornaments for your tree. So Tatara is using a wood block that has been soaked in water in order to shape the glass. You'll see that the glass conforms to the shape. It slowly takes on a Q-tip shape. And that's a really nice shape for blowing into.
Real light pressure, okay?
So Jessica is using a blow hose to blow into this pipe. And as she blows, we're going to see that bubble inflate slowly. Tatara is using a little bit of wet newspaper to shape.
There you go, you're doing good. Keep going.
Can you guys see that bubble slowly growing? We're going to be probably taking another gather on this, I'm guessing. Two more?
Keep going, Jess. Stop right there, that's perfect.
So Tatara's got to make sure this bubble gets bigger, but not too big.
I did.
Go again, Jess.
Because if we get that bubble too big, it's going to collapse when we gather more glass on it.
Stop.
So a good balance between the amount of glass and the amount of air inside is super important. And then of course making sure you're turning. You guys have probably noticed that this thing is constantly turning and rotating. Tatara's working some magic here. Her hands aren't even on the pipe and it's turning.
Magic.
It's
Like
magic. And so the moment you stop turning, bubbles or glass tends to get off center. It's not too bad for solid sculpting, but when you have a bubble in there, getting things off center can sometimes create a little bit of havoc. All right.
Terrible pie slice.
It's pretty. All right. Yeah. So you guys can see that the color when Tatara is gathering right out of the furnace, the color is pretty white hot. And then as she's working on the glass, you're going to be able to see that bubble a little better because it's cooling down.
Let me get it a little cooler and then we'll look that up, okay?
Not bad. So using the block again, Tatara is trying to get it into that Q-tip shape. And you guys can see as it's slowly cooling down, you can kind of see more of that bubble shape in there. Glass isn't as blinding hot. So as we're working with the glass, we gotta keep heating it. And so we use these little reheating chambers. You guys can see this one here. That's our little baby.
You gotta wait till Cliff comes back because I don't want to yell.
And so just like a potter or ceramicist has to keep their clay wet, glass makers have to keep the glass hot while they're working. So a good balance of heat, not overheating it, but heating it just enough to work with it is super important. And this comes with practice and experience, learning how to not overheat or underheat something.
Stop. Go again. Stop.
So Tatara's got to keep that newspaper wet as she's working with it.
Go again.
The wet newspaper develops a thin layer of steam on it,
Get a heat, okay? You'll just follow me, okay?
and the glass kind of rides on that level of steam. So it doesn't quite burn up the newspaper very quickly because we keep the newspaper wet, but absolutely as it's touching the hot glass, it is slowly burning. Nice. So Jessica's taking the next heat. All right.
I'm gonna get another layer.
You said you're gonna do another layer?
No,
Not sure?
not sure. Go ahead. Real gentle stuff, okay?
Just let me know when you want me to go.
Go ahead.
So communication in the studio is really important.
Remember how much time
You can see that Tatara is kind of talking to Jessica as they're working and communicating about what she needs.
Do we want smalls or just take those medium large ones and shrink them down?
You can shrink them down or just put smalls on as we go.
Okay.
So I think they're good with big teeth.
Okay.
There you go. My other side. There you go.
So right now, what she's gonna do is she's gonna swing it a little bit.
That's substantial.
Yeah, we're gonna get a little bit wider, I think.
All right. So I'm not quite sure if Tatara is gonna gather more glass on this. You're not gathering more glass on that, right, T? I don't think so. All right. for those of you who are watching, remember you can come do this too. We offer classes in the studio, and we offer classes in our flameworking and kiln forming studios as well. It's a really nice thing to come and do with the family over the holidays, especially if you have family coming into town. Book a class quickly because our holiday classes fill up really fast. So go to our website.
There you go.
Go to our website, check out our classes.
Make it chill and more paired back.
Now we're on the spot. You have to go in, you have to push. You have to go in, we're on the pipe. It's coming for a treat. So we go in, Jared, come here. This is a
That's bad.
So our veterans have not worked very much with glass, so part of this is also guiding them through. This is one of the things we do best, is teaching. So this is like really what we're known for, is teaching people how to do this. So Jessica is using the jacks to create a constriction. We talked a little bit about this process earlier, but earlier they were using the diamond shears to make the constriction. This time we are using the jacks.
Then we'll get Jason Carey.
So that tool that Jessica has in her hands over there, those are called the jacks. And they are used for shaping, sculpting, but mostly they're used for creating the jack line, which is a constriction in the glass that is used to break the glass free from the rod that we're working with.
Yes, ma'am.
That means you get to paddle.
So you guys, this is a bucket list thing for sure. Coming in and taking a class in glassmaking is totally a bucket list thing. So if you haven't done this yet, highly, highly encourage you to come try it.
Hello, Jared.
Blow from your cheeks. Buffy.
Chipmunk cheeks. Set that paddle down, Jared. Set that down, Jason. Now look good. Your safety glasses on. Come on over here. You're gonna lift this pipe. Remember what we practiced before they got here?
All right.
No, you don't need those.
He's still blowing.
Stop blowing.
She didn't say stop.
You did well.
All right, now it's getting warm.
She got mad at me last time I was there. She about to kick my ass. Like,
Thank you, Vernell. That is super sweet of you to say that. Vernell's actually been with us as a student, I believe, probably a renter too, if I'm not mistaken, as well as an instructor.
Easy on the air.
Vernell's been with us a long time too. Definitely a huge supporter of us, so thank you for that, Vernell.
Big cheeks, Jared.
Certainly without people like
Little bit
you,
more, Jared, if you got
we
it.
can't exist, for sure.
Good. Let's do that again. Stop, Jared. Now look, don't grab anything, okay, Jason?
guys, at this point, what we're doing, those of you who are just tuning in or didn't watch us earlier, we are making a tree trunk with roots on it. We made the roots earlier, and we are working on the tree trunk now.
Yeah, definitely.
So remember, what you're watching are people just like you who are learning how to do this. So if this is something you want to learn, if this has been on your bucket list for a while, come find us in Fort Worth on Magnolia Avenue and come take a class with us. All of our classes are listed online, but you can always stop by, check out the gallery too. So once again, we are featuring our veterans program today. And I just wanted to quickly say thank you to all the veterans out there. Those of you who are watching, those of you who aren't, thank you for your service. We do a bunch of veterans programming to thank you. This one was a program through a grant. So the veterans who participated didn't actually pay anything. We do have our Veterans Day celebration coming up tomorrow. We do that once a year. And the veterans who participate and their families who participate in that do not pay anything. And those programs happen through grants as well as donations. And so if you want to support that programming, do go to our website and click on that donate button to help us continue these programs. We here at Seneca are super part of our mission is community. And so we do bring all of these programs to the community, the local community. So if you know anyone who might be interested, we're going to be doing that Veterans Day celebration again next year. So look out for that. I believe the one that is coming up tomorrow is full, but we will do it again next year. So keep an eye out for that. You guys can also come out and support us just by taking a class. Really just coming out and supporting us by taking a class, making a purchase in the gallery. Anything you do like that helps us keep the doors open and helps us continue to do things like this. So we do appreciate those of you who have been longtime fans of us and told your friends about us, or keep coming back over and over. I know some of you are watching, based on the comments here, a lot of you are watching. So thank you guys for always being there to support us.
And then we'll do it again, guys, okay?
Right. So Tatara's given the bubble a little bit of heat, and then she's gonna marble it. We're going for that cylinder shape, right? So we're making a tree trunk. So she needs to get this glass bubble. It looks like a bubble right now. She's got to get this to somewhat of a cylinder shape.
Jared, will you follow me and then hook that up?
Right. So those of you who come to take a class with us, you're also going to be using a blow hose to blow while you're shaping your glass. And so this process is going to be very similar to what you would be doing in the glass blowing studio if you were taking a class with us. Our instructors will be kind of guiding you through the process. But you are actually going to be more in control of things like applying your color, using the tools a little bit, depending on what item you're making.
Alright guys, we are getting close. Then we got one more time.
Right. All right. So T is doing that one more time. We're giving those sides a nice square shape ideally because we are trying to make a cylinder. And then I believe they're gonna flatten the end there. Now those of you who have been watching with us for a little while, you saw that we put away a bunch of parts earlier. Those are gonna get attached to this bubble. Those of you who were not watching earlier, you'll just have to wait and see.
We're gonna heat, and then we're gonna paddle, and we're gonna crispen it up to the bottom of the paper. We'll be on the paper, okay? Right underneath, somebody you want to paddle? You want to paddle? The idea of that is that you want to, yeah, the paddle.
So Tatara is talking them through
Come on over here,
the
bud.
shape.
So,
All right.
I thought something like do it like underneath it.
so this is the trunk, right? So this is the top. The roots are going to be attached here, right?
We're making
So
squish
we got to squish this flat.
Yeah.
But if you push too hard, you're going to squish the whole thing.
Right.
Jessica's going to come underneath and touch it. So you're going to be right like that. Perfect. But we got to get it hot first.
Yeah. So Tatara is going to heat this bubble up a little bit more, and then we're going to flatten the end of the bubble. We're going for a cylinder shape, so we're going to use a paddle, which is basically a wooden board with a handle on it. And Jessica is going to also be using a little bit of newspaper. And then we're going to make it into a cylinder.
So be ready to gather is what you're saying.
that. Let Jess touch first.
Mike, put your feet right there. Whatever your name is. That dude.
Amigo, do better.
Jason.
Jason.
All right. You guys can see that cylinder just takes the shape with the right heat and the right tools. The cylinder just takes the shape of the tools.
That be you. Ricardo.
Hair there.
Your hair. Bring your pedal up.
Just a little bit, okay?
So Tatara is giving it a little bit more heat because they're gonna redo a little bit of shaping.
I'm just gonna go.
Yeah, just very subtle.
And then in the meantime, Kevin is gathering a little bit of glass on the end because we're gonna start picking up, what?
Don't get beer.
Oh, I thought you were starting to pick up the little. All right. Oh, got it. So these, got it. So this is going to be glass for texture on the trunk itself. And then once that's done, then we're going to pick up all of those parts we put away earlier, correct? Okay. Got it.
All right, you guys, now we're going to stamp it with the bark.
All right. So Tatara's got the base done. She's got the cylinder made. And then Kevin's gathering a little bit of glass from our furnace. And we're going to texture that
Molten
with
lava.
these pieces
Beware
of
the
bark.
lava hunt.
So the bark's
out
been
the,
soaked
flame
in
reed.
water to stop it from
And then lift
burning
the
up
lunges.
too quickly. And that's going to impart a texture on the glass when we stick that in
I'm
there.
gonna do one more.
Yeah. Another is a contestant.
That's why I don't wear leather loincloths. Yep. So, good Kevin.
I think we're starting to look at the side one more. Are we sticking it in oil, going to the top, or going to the top of the oil?
All right. So I believe Kevin is gathering
Ready?
one more
No? Okay.
gather.
I will stay warm.
All right. Now it's game time. So Kevin is gathering some hot glass from our furnace. We're gonna drop that onto that bubble that we created earlier.
Start big. You want me to strip it?
No, just barber.
So he's marvering it a little bit.
You said some big ones and some small ones.
And then just by kind of dropping and dragging the glass,
Hold on one side.
We can put a nice hot bit on there that will take texture from this bark.
There you go. Excellent job.
Oh, that looks so good.
All the way around, girl. Keep going on all edges, even in the back. There you go. Stop. All right.
Right. And so that bark has been soaked in water to prevent it from catching on fire.
Don't be shy, guys. Literally treat it like a snake. So, Kev, the idea is less for less weight, right? Yeah. So just you got a head test. Come on, guys. Just grab one. It doesn't matter. And give it a good push, girl. Go ahead. Push down. Push. And stop. Good.
Nice. That looks awesome. So we're gonna do a bunch of bits like that.
Yeah. So, Kip, question. You want to jump in and start doing bits?
You alright on your hand?
All right.
I know, it looks like bark.
That looks good. We're going to go that all the way around, guys. So one thing to think about, though, when I put them on, right, the edges are rounded. So make sure when you make the impression, you touch the edge.
Should we go like this? Like,
Yeah, you can, or you can push and then pick up and then attack it from an angle.
Make sure you don't get your glove that way because you don't steam it.
Yeah. Yeah, watch your hand.
You want that size or smaller?
Smaller.
Okay. Are we ready?
Yeah. All right, guys, who's next? Nothing yet. Come on, close. Come close. Ready? Lift on the sides here where it's smooth and shiny. The other side. Stop. Okay. Right back here. Lift right here. Ready? Alright, there you go. Excellent. A little bit more right. What are you doing? It's smooth. Good. Stop. Perfect. Good. Get heavy. Oh, you look heavy. Alright, who's next?
Margaret Little?
Yeah, Margaret Little.
Virginia Slims?
Say something.
No.
I don't know if Virginia Slim exactly fits you, bud.
Yeah, there you go.
So rude.
You lack the age and the white crustiness.
Lift. Lift. Go in. Oh yeah, Jay, what's going on?
Reggie's pulling them from the side. Got my.
Just anywhere it's smooth, bud, okay? Ready? Go ahead. Push down. Good. Good. Anywhere it's smooth. Dip that in the water real fast. And come back. All these edges, one side, one side. Hold on. If the water drips on the glass underneath, it'll crack it. Alright, go ahead. Good. You're up here. Stop. On the third beat.
Oh, sorry.
All Alright, one more big one and then we're gonna fill in. You guys are going big.
On this one right now?
Yeah. That'll work.
All right, I'm behind you.
Yeah, so I think they're pretty dry. So get it as wet as possible before we go in. Right? That's a little bit more. Okay, good. Right here, bud. You good? You're good.
I'm sorry.
I'll do the rest.
Do you want to go? No. You got it.
Enjoy. You worked hard.
Lift.
Was that dissertation?
Good. Come on, coach.
I need a good army cook in my life.
All right, you ready? Don't be shy, okay? Go ahead. Push, 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 push. Good. Wiggle. It's okay, just tap it. Get a new piece.
Yeah.
Ready?
If you overlap.
Yeah, done that piece
If
flat.
you overlap, it doesn't matter. All you're doing is creating more pressure.
Yeah, push, 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 push.
That's
That's good. Yeah, that looks good. What? Don't say stuff like that. Right here. Good. Lift.
Go, T, go!
Alright, bro. Okay, I want you to think about pushing this one into that crease, okay? In the crease. Push it in the crease. Push down, push. Good. And there. And lift. Right here. Good. Good, good. So just the together and then a single and we'll be good.
One more.
I'm the last one. Yes.
You don't always get overcoat, Jared. I know you're
Because I want to relax.
make sure you do what I did. Perfect.
Certainly more than important, but not quite half.
All right, you guys. So we are finishing up a little bit of that texturing for this piece.
Good.
And then once Tatara and the veterans are happy about
Yeah,
it,
just a little bitty right there.
I think they got just a couple spots they want to fill with a little more texture.
I think that's gonna be okay.
And then after they do that, we're gonna start adding those roots on. So those of you who've been here the entire time, you know that we started with a little sketch as well as a maquette of what we're working on. And then once Tatara is happy with that and the veterans are happy with the base shape, we're gonna add those little roots on. All right.
Push towards me. There you go. There you go.
So cool. So now that the bark is wet, we know that the bark is wet. That's why we're able to kind of press it in for texture without it burning up really fast. So we do use wood in the studio, and you guys know that wood and fire don't really mix very well. But by keeping the wood wet, you can get a lot of use out of it. So technically the newspaper we use in the studio is also made of wood. And we basically wet it, and then you're able to put it in direct contact with the hot glass without it burning up too much. So the team is kind of inspecting it. They're making sure that they like it. And once they're happy with it, if there's no other adjustments they want to make, they're going to start adding those roots in.
It's recessed. I think it's good.
Because you do sometimes have the bark that still keeps up coming up.
You want to smooth this side right here, don't you?
Oh, so you want to add the extra layer to it?
Put the top layer.
Jason, you want to feel what it feels like now?
What's that?
You want to feel what it feels like now?
How heavy it is? Yeah.
So the team's discussing how they want to do the next part, which is attaching all of those roots. They're going to have a little discussion about that, so that they know, so everyone's on the same page basically as they move forward with the demonstration.
All the way in, bud. All the way in. Turn slow. Get slow.
I know better. And work me a lot. Work is a lot of life sometimes.
Come on out. Pull that thing back with your foot.
Yep.
Come on out. Keep turning. Don't let it go. We got some practice. It's kind of the idea. Is it heavy?
Yeah, I'm gonna get this cold, so we've got a hot surface. Instead of cold core.
All right, so I think the next step is going to be to punty this piece, which is basically a transfer. So you can see there Clifton has got a punty. He is cooling it off right now. And then they're going to use that piece of glass on that steel rod to transfer this thing to. Because the roots are going to go where this is connected to the pipe. So
After we switch this up, we're going to be bringing those roots like we brought them last night, okay? So hydrate if you need it. If you haven't eaten and you need to eat some food, is there? Kev?
Pizza in there.
There's pizza in the gallery. You guys want to go grab a slice real fast? We're going to switch this thing around, get this bottom half flat again, and then we'll be ready.
all right. So Clifton's gathering up again. He's going to cool that rod off. This is going to be the puntee, correct? We are transferring it.
Yeah, put a sculptural puntee on. Put it on hot. Put a little neck in it.
So Clifton's giving it a little marver to shape it up. And then he's going to stick this to the bottom of the piece. Now the bottom of the piece is the furthest point away from Tatara.
What? Pull. Pull. Slow, slow, slow.
So Tatara's putting in a tiny little break-off point, a jack line in the puntee, and then we're going to transfer the piece onto the pipe that Clifton has in his hands. So the glass is going to want to break where it's coldest. And so we're going to see Tatara cool off this section right here by adding a little bit of water.
Yeah. Will you come get on this line with the jacks, please? There's a bunch of them.
Which one would you like me to pick? The one with the
The
water?
one they did. Yeah, the one with the water. Ready? Do it.
And then with a little tap, the piece is transferred. So this is really the way in which most vessels are made. There is usually a transfer. There's usually a little transfer process in the middle of making the piece. So when you have a bubble and you're shaping up that bubble, the part that is furthest away from you usually ends up as the bottom of the vessel. And so you've got to transfer the puntee, using a puntee, you've got to transfer the piece so that you can open up the bubble from the other side. So that's what we saw them just do. So you're going to see when Clifton comes back to the bench, the piece is going to be open from the part that is furthest away from him. So he's giving it a little bit of heat.
So I'm hanging out way out in front of the hole, just letting it slowly heat up so I don't cook out all the texture.
He's kind of making sure that part that Tatara put water on is heating up. And he's giving it an overall flash, and he'll probably bring it back to the bench for them to take a look at. So one of the cool things about our studio is that you guys can come and learn from us, and then we also offer rental facilities. So once you learn through taking one of our curriculum classes, you are then able to rent the facility and make what you want to make. So kind of keep that in mind if this is something you think you may be interested in doing or picking up as a hobby. You guys can see now the thing I mentioned earlier where this bubble is now open from this end. There's a little hole there. So now the team's going to be able to open up this vessel and then add all those little roots on. So if you think you want to pick up a new hobby, come see us. Take a look at our curriculum classes online. Once you take a multi-week class, we then make sure that you are comfortable in the studio and ready to rent. And then you can rent the studio and work on your own stuff, whatever you want to work on. you guys, we should be streaming for just about an hour, maybe a little less than that, depending on how fast these pieces get attached to the main body. So stick with us. Feel free to share this video with your friends if you think they would be interested in it or interested in glassmaking in general. And then for those of you who are wondering what happens with these pieces after we do these demonstrations, we have a major fundraiser that happens around March or April usually. This upcoming March we will be having this coming year's Vitramoda fundraiser. So that is an auction in which this piece will very likely be on display and up for sale as well. So I know a lot of you tune into our open studio night demonstrations every month. And if you're ever curious to see what that piece looks like, that's good motivation to come to our Vitramoda event. So Tatara is using a Soffietta to blow into this space. The bubble is no longer attached to the blow pipe. And so this tool allows you to blow from the other end and kind of give it a little bit more inflation from this side. Right. So Tatara is using that Soffietta to blow a little bit to inflate the piece a little bit more.
Yep. Remember, it's not sitting on this, but it takes it on the roof. So keep at least 3, 4 that are thick, so that you can support the weight.
Do you want to put some hot ones on first?
Yeah, there's some big ones. And the idea is like the more, the better
what
the
we can
stability.
do is we can have them make some. Run out. If we want another one, have them make one.
I just want to know, remember we talked about last night working from the center out or from the outside in?
All right.
So what have you decided? Center?
Put the smallest ones on first, around the hole. Then come back and put some outside of that. Second board.
All right.
All right, kids, time to play. Who's getting the first fruit?
They don't know to look out for you.
Yeah. I gotcha. All right. So Kevin's making Jessica a little punty, and then they're gonna go to that pickup box as they did earlier and pick up one of those little roots. And they're gonna flash into the little baby hole.
If that makes any difference. Nice heat.
All right. So Jessica is giving it another little bit of heat. And then she's going to take it over to Clifton. All right. All right, so we're gonna do a few bits like that. The veterans are gonna pick up a root. They're gonna heat it in that little bit hole. And then they're going to take it over to Clifton. And they're going to stick it to that main body, just like that last one.
There you go, nice. Start seeing a little more glow. That's what you're looking for. Yep. Go ahead and flash again. This time or one more on you, Cliff? Okay, he's ready. Take it on over.
Drive it in. Perfect. Okay, now hold that. Put those down in the face so you hit with the edge of the tool. There you go.
You're next there.
All right. We're going to do that again. So we have a bunch of these little bits.
Flip it, let it fall down. Angle down a little. Bring it right down. Now turn. Keep it even. There you go. Nice. Big gnarly one for you, Cliff.
Okay.
So if it starts getting too gooey, back all the way out. There you go. Nope, give it another little flash. Everybody into the fire, all the way deep. 5 seconds. Then you're going to pull all the way back out. Hang out there, don't leave. If you need to come off the yoke, do it. So you can keep your balance. You want a flash, Cliff?
Yeah, we're going to do a quick.
Give another little flash. Great. Come all the way out, come off the yoke. All the way out of the fire. Keep it turning. guide you from there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very good.
So Jess is picking up the next route.
I figured that was all we needed to say.
That's it. That'll do it.
He's giving it a little flash.
There you go. Nice touch on that. It's supposed to be on the fly. So that way you can actually.
Now, that was what the process of making us live.
Yeah. Well, honestly, you're in.
Jessica's taking the last flash for her piece. And Clifton's heating up the main body one more time just to make sure the heat's all even. Right. With a little heat of that oxy torch, it gives it a nice hot place for the glass to stick to. And then by cooling the point of breaking, that little tap is usually enough to break the glass free.
Once it starts to set up a little bit on the pipe, then you can go ahead and okay. We'll just try something.
Jessica?
Yeah.
So that we can have this layer kind of completed, and then we'll add another layer around all of these. But I want to be sure that we address this. So we're going to start with this one. Okay, I'm going to heat it, and then I'm going to flash so that they're all a little warm, and then I'm pulling.
Yeah, it's okay to twist, just grab it and pull.
Just jump right.
Cut it.
Yeah, did I tell you? My twin brother's leaving and let us
Watch
finish
your
first.
toes, watch your shoes.
His appendix burst.
That's a little bit better. That was
He
my
just got out of the
squat.
hospital, but I guess it was like so bad that there wasn't, his appendix wasn't even there.
Keep that in there, it's in there, but don't run it. So yeah, we're gonna just gonna put it there, stay in there, get that thing toasted and shit.
Break off standpoint, we need to flip these then. We're gonna do it on the marker because we need this for the sculpture money.
Oh, when we're done at the very end?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just do it. So again, I'm gonna go and feed it and then we'll pull it.
Okay.
So Clifton and Jessica are refining the shape of the roots a little bit. They're heating it with the oxygen torch for selective heat and then pulling those little points with the tweezers and cutting the ends into root-like shapes. So the plan is to refine these a little bit more and then to add another layer of roots around these.
Yeah, you think so?
I think we should get them on. Come on out, guys. Barber. Hand on top, hand on bottom. Let that one hand on there. Yeah, I think that big one right there was one. Keep it. I think it's going to be a good supporting structure. This one.
All right. So these guys are ready for the next one. Jason's picking up one of those little bits. All right.
Let it fall till it's about halfway.
Right, and then go in. Yeah, yeah. There you go. Just
All
watch
right.
it because your punny was much hotter this time.
I like that one. This one was kind of cool. Like they got busted, you know, and they like shear, you know, they ripped out or whatever.
So Jason's got to heat the glass up to make sure it's not going to crack when we attach it to the main body.
Cliff, you ready?
We're gonna pull on that line, and I'll be ready to.
Clifton's going to flash the main body to make sure that the main piece is nice and toasty.
Over Bridget. Awesome, thanks, yeah, sounds great.
All right.
This is the fun part of doing sculptural work. They're always so that way that little connection actually gets a little too as well. So that way it doesn't get too little.
On the walk back, you get down there, so you're straight down.
Yep, yeah. It always aggressive with your flashing because those little breezes and
Clifton's got a nice hot spot. We're going to attach the next root tube.
Oh, yeah, that was fantastic.
Oh,
Even with excitement.
Even the professional. Jeez.
She's gonna scoop that back up and make it big.
Exactly, bro. She did it on purpose.
Snap into that
She was
slime
like,
tape.
what I could do.
No, it's more like bad TV.
all right. So Tara's got the next piece ready, flashing it a little bit.
Put this one on a perimeter edge, okay?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it out here. But I need this to be pretty warm, so.
We're gonna do some massage work on this.
Yeah, we'll add one or two more. Probably two more.
Two more?
Yeah, then tease and then two more, and then we'll massage.
Okay.
See that hot spot?
I'm getting on his right side because of my working. My lefty tendencies.
Good.
Hey, look, it worked.
Teamwork! Oh my gosh.
Who would have thought?
Do it by the numbers.
3, 4, spot.
See, George on the funky.
Ask him. Okay. Let's show you. Okay, so show your sister your work, bud.
Sure.
Yeah, now we're gonna right down in there.
All right, how many we got left there?
A lot.
Got a lot.
All right.
We're gonna do this and then massaging, right? That's what he said.
Yeah, that way we can refine a couple of the edges.
Yeah.
Then we'll do another round.
We'll probably run a little bit longer cycle on it just because of the fluids we have, so it'll probably take
He's talking to his sister.
So we got a few more pieces to go.
Every glass
Take a look.
you go into is right-handed.
Yeah, well, lefties think with their right mind.
All the lefties say that.
You try to.
Watch your punty.
Flash is doing good. Charge.
Five left. Done sticking.
All right, you guys, we got about 5 of these roots left that we want to add. This piece is shaping up nicely.
I think you one flash test.
Okay. No worries.
We're still in.
She's gonna be.
Yeah, perfect temp. That's the way it's supposed to just kind of pop off.
Should four more. If you want 'em.
Kev, watch out. All right. right.
I think I'm gonna need one more heat.
Oh.
One more heat.
Right, yeah.
That looks so cool.
I'm gonna go do one more heat. I'm gonna give it a flash. You can give it a flash. You come back right there.
I think there's 3 more. But we can make it the last one if you want. I think so. Do you want that or scrap that? Hi. Okay, so upper right hand corner done. So that means there's 2 more.
One, there's 2 more.
3. 1, 2, 3.
Good. Go back and tell them you got one on.
Oh, actually 1 more.
This one put in here. This one here.
Sorry.
Oh, we're gonna do the splendid one.
No, we're not going to do the one in the upper right hand corner. We'll just do the little shuffle.
All right, I think you guys, we are getting down to the last couple of routes on this piece. So there is some final shaping that happens after this, but I'm not quite certain what that's going to be. So you guys will have to find out with me. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the next step is going to be because we've got this set up right here. It looks like they have done some shaping of the roots with that. Right. So this might be the last root that we're adding to this piece.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hot and it's smushed in there. Yeah. And it'll, when it spreads out, it'll be like. It's really not a very big one. So we're going to take another flash on this piece, and then we're going to attach one more root, and then the team is going to change the shape a little bit after that. All right.
We're doing a little bit of extra heating to get the glass to even out a little bit. So we're evening out the heat, making sure there are no cold spots, cold areas. Alright, you guys,
Okay.
so
And then what we'll do is we're going to heat this just a little bit, make it nice and smooth. Okay? Sound good? Paddles, nothing better.
So Clifton's gonna heat this trunk a little bit with all the roots. From what it sounds like, they're gonna heat it enough to set it down here and move the roots around a little bit to add a little bit of shaping before it gets put away. Clifton's first going to make sure everything is heated nice and evenly, and then it sounds like he's going to give it extra heat to get those roots to move a little bit.
In the tweezers, and we're going to just work this last one right here. This one's going to drill those holes. It's kind of blunt. So I want you to just give it one last little tug. That one right there. That one? Okay. Okay, I'm going to go get a little heat, and when I come back, we'll give it a tug. Okay. Okay?
No, that's not the beard for what's his name in yeah, the tentacle beard for
Facing down.
It's this one on the bottom, right?
Yes, go to the bottom, now it's up. Whatever you want to do. Pull line, push on it.
Right. Because these guys are doing a little bit more final shaping on some of the roots that don't look very root-like.
Watch him when he spins it, when he does the next flash. Like you'll see that, like it's just kind of.
Yes, pull this one gently, okay? So
Alright.
that doesn't get too
Too thin.
yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So Clifton's giving it a little spot heat to make sure it's hot in just that area. And then Jess is pulling on it to make it a little more root-like. Alright.
Do 3 heats and go. And the first of the last 3, okay? This one.
now there's a little bit of evening out of the heat. So Clifton is gonna take a few flashes. He said he's gonna take about 3. So this is the first one to make sure that the heat is nice and even. Tatar is heating up the punty to make sure that punty doesn't crack. The part that's attached to the metal is called a moil, and that area is most likely to cool down a little too fast. So we gotta make sure that area stays warm, otherwise the whole piece tends to jump off the pipe. So I believe this is the second flash. Clifton's working a little extra heat into the piece. Alright, so Clifton is now going to heat the roots up a little extra. Alright. Sorry. So by spinning the glass a little bit, Clifton is flaring them open.
Get in between, don't let them touch, guys.
Over here, guys.
Yeah, just that one. If they're touching, it's okay. But try not to let any extra ones touch. Okay, stop for a second. Okay.
That is super cool.
Give it a little bend towards me. There you go. Back towards you.
It's on its own right now.
Coming off.
Okay, do it. Yep.
All right.
Yeah, no, that's it, bud.
Yeah, they're good.
The next step, as you can see, Kevin is suited up to put this thing away. So the next step is putting it into an annealer. Once we are done shaping it.
Come back during the Christmas open studio and a lot of fun.
Alright, everybody bring out the marshmallows.
All right.
Oh, that's heavy.
The piece goes into an annealer to cool down slowly overnight. Excellent. Nice job. That looked awesome. So thank you again to our veterans. Thank you for your service. Those of you who are veterans and want to participate in our veterans programming, please check out our website.
Thank you guys for coming. We want to thank Jessica and the guys for coming to help out, and thank them for their service, of course. And just remember, at any time you can email me or reach out to Seneca and ask about our veteran programming. We do a lot of different things, and this was just one of the things that we did with this group of gentlemen. So thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate you.
Thank you, T.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to have Clifton say a couple of words too.
Thank you guys all for tuning in. I want to take this opportunity to thank the Arts Council and the Texas Commission on the Arts, the Ann L. and Carol Green Rhodes Charitable Trust, the R4 Foundation, and all the supporters out there who have donated over the years. I want to recognize the team. It takes a team, right? We can do so much more together than we can alone. I want to thank the veterans and all veterans who've served. We really appreciate your service. We wouldn't have the freedoms without your service and your sacrifice. Thank you guys all so much. Come back and see us soon. Come to the studios, visit our website. We have a lot to offer, so come and enjoy it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Clifton. So you guys don't forget, we do this programming once a month on the second Friday of every month. Next month, the second Friday of the month, will be our annual tree lighting ceremony. So definitely join us for that. That one's a really popular one, and it rounds out the end of the year. All right. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We'll see you again next month.